Well, good morning. Welcome to our second parent workshop of the year. Hopefully you've been able to join us for the first one just last month in the library. But my name is Josh Bartz. I serve as a director of student ministries for middle school and high school, alongside my wife Taylor, who was in the back, now she's disappeared, and as well Trish Todd. So we're just really grateful to be able to serve the students here in all the different aspects of spiritual life, chapels, and Bible studies. But we also get a chance to work with parents a little bit, which is awesome, and through the avenue of these workshops. And so I was just telling our presenter, this is one of my favorite things we get to do, is because I get to meet all of you, meet our presenters, and just be able to connect and resource you, because we know that parenting can be difficult, it can be hard, and so at the very minimum, we want to be able to just say, hey, we know it's hard, maybe this resource can help in any way possible, and that you would feel supported in your parenting at home and all the different things that you have going on. So I'm excited for this morning. Our presenter is Chris Siggins. So actually, Chris, I went to school with his oldest son. So we went to high school together and then also college together. So it's been great this morning getting a chance to just kind of reconnect. Chris serves as a licensed mental health counselor in marriage and family therapy. He serves alongside of his wife as well, who's also a counselor. So when they get into arguments, they just pull out their latest kind of thought and strategy, and they just see which one works better. I can imagine how that goes. But he's a phenomenal resource, a great person. I'm excited for you to hear from him this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then I'm going to kick it over to Chris to get us started. Lord, we give you thanks for this morning. Thank you for the parents that have gathered this morning to just learn and to see how they can grow in their parenting, how they can love their students well. And God, I pray that they would feel encouraged this morning, that they would be challenged in different ways, that they could apply what they've learned this morning to better love and serve their students. And God, I thank you for this school, that we get a chance to come alongside of them and resource them and disciple both students and parents. And so we thank you for this time. We dedicate it to you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you so much, Josh. As he said, my name is Chris. I'm so glad to be here with you. And I do want to take a moment, if we can, just to thank Josh and his wife, Taylor, because it's their work behind the scenes that creates these moments where we get to be together and to support and resource you guys. I love the fact that we have times like this, and it's all because of what Josh does and his wife, Taylor. So they didn't ask me to do this, but for a moment, just clap and say thank you. We're grateful for what you do. Yeah. It's awesome, pouring into our kids and pouring into us as parents. And it's kind of like a blind date. Anybody ever been on a blind date? You know, Josh knows me and he knows you. Thought we'd be good together, you know. And if this goes well, we'll be like, man, way to go. If it goes poorly, we can all be mad at Josh, right? That's how this will go. Josh knows me, or he knows a little bit of my pedigree, which is, as he said, a licensed marriage and family therapist. I started out as a pastor doing marriage and family pastoring in local church work. So I've met with so many couples and parents and families over the years in that capacity. I really enjoyed that. For about the last 8 years, I've spent part of my time traveling to working with every branch of the United States military, working with couples and parents who are serving that way and love that. As Josh said a moment ago, I work now in private practice with my wife, Kim, at Jupiter Community Counseling, and I get to enjoy working with parents there. I would say this: when I was a pastor, people would not share things with me. I would show up if I was visiting their house, and if they smoked, they would like hide their cigarette behind their leg and like, dude, I think your leg is on fire, right? They would stop cussing. In counseling, people don't do that. They say stuff. They do stuff. I enjoy it so much. So I have that part of my story and that part of my experience that it's so meaningful to me. I've enjoyed that. I love working with couples and parents now in the counseling practice. But I would also say this: not only is the professional part of my life working with parents and families, but also I'm in the fight with you. I'm a dad. I know what it's like to be a parent. I've got 5 kids. My wife, Kim, and I have been married for 30 years. Our oldest son is 26. And then we have all the way from 26 down to an 8-year-old little boy. 4 boys and a girl. When Kim told me that she was pregnant with our 8-year-old, I honestly said, I'm not kidding you guys, I should know better. I said, what did you do? That's what I said. The good news is we had just bought a couch, and I enjoyed that couch that night. Yeah. But I say all that to say, let me undo this water real quick. I say all that to say that I know how tough it can be. I know how hard it can be to be in that conversation, to hear that kid that you love so much say those things that hurt so much, right? I know how difficult that can be. And my experience is that nobody tells us, they can't tell us how great parenting is, how rich, how joyful that love is. I see some of you nodding your heads. You know what I'm talking about. You got to experience it to really understand it. And at the same time, nobody really, I think, does a good job of telling us how difficult and how gut-wrenching it can be at times, especially with a teenager or a preteen. You know, we're getting ready for the holidays. Christmas is coming. You're welcome for that. So start shopping. It's right around the corner. And it reminds me of, Mary, the mother of Jesus. And there's this verse where the prophet is talking with her, and he says, your son is destined for great things. Many are going to rise and fall, and talks about Jesus. But then he says, and a sword will pierce your heart always, or also. And we know that that's a special application that Mary's going to see her son crucified to pay for our sins, for her sins, for us today. And that would just pierce her heart. But I also think that that's for every parent, that part of this journey, part of this role, part of this relationship, leading and loving our kids, there's going to be some pain involved. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about the pain of parenting now. All right. So we're here to talk about conflict. What we know is that families have conflict. You know that. I know that professionally and also personally. But let's talk about some of the reasons for the conflict that we have. I want you to know, if you don't know this, it's normal. If you're facing difficult conversations at home with your kids, that doesn't mean you're doing a bad job as a mom, as a parent. That's par for the course. Let's look at some of the reasons real quick. One is just developmental. You know this. Your preteen, your teenager, they are half-baked. Their brain is not done forming, right? We know now it's like 25, 26 before it's fully formed. What part are we waiting on to grow? What part are we waiting on to be fully formed? The part that makes good decisions, right? That frontal part of the brain. Our brains grow from the back to the front. The back is that little amygdala, the emotion, the fight or flight, right? That high reactivity. Have you ever experienced high reactivity with your kid? I'm not going to do that. I hate you. All that stuff. The cake needs to bake a little bit more, like a decade more. I don't know, right? I've got a friend who calls his teenagers subhuman. He's not exactly wrong. I don't know, right? They don't know how to make great decisions. Sometimes you and I as parents, we see them do things. We hear about what they've done over the week or at their day at school or with their friends, and we go, what were you thinking? They weren't. They can't. They can't think like you and I think. So it's important for us to realize part of the conflict, some of the tension, some of the emotionally charged conversations we have, they're just being who they can be in that moment. They're doing the best they can with what they have at the moment. It will change. It will get better. Look in the mirror. You got better. I got better, right? We can make better decisions, hopefully, now, right? All right. So developmental. And then also socially and relationally and spiritually, what's happening with our kids in the preteen and teen years. The psychologist Erickson said that they're in the stage of growth, of development, where they're wrestling between identity, the huge question, who am I? And role confusion is what he said. Who am I supposed to be? Who should I be? Who do I want to be? And part of those questions, guess what? they start pushing back on mom and dad. The values, the beliefs, the things that you've said, that you've modeled, that Kim and I have modeled in our home, right? They start questioning, well, how do I know that's for me? How do I know that's true for me? Why do we go to church? Why do I go to a Christian school? Why do we spend the money the way we spend the money? Why do we spend our time? Why do we do what we do? And is this for me? And that can be really, that can be tough. That can be challenging. And we can experience that if we're not careful as like a rejection of us as parents, as moms and dads. It's normal. It's good. It's healthy. It's what they need to do. This is the moment. This is the time when their faith can become their own and not just something they've inherited from you, from me, right? When I was a kid, not a whole lot of resources, right? I just had a Southern Baptist grandmother who said, well, this is bad, and don't do that. Oh, okay. And then, you know, I go to school, I go to high school, and I have nothing no foundation to stand on in terms of faith. You know, I go to college, and nothing really there, no resource. Had to kind of find it on my own, and some of you are like that too. I want to take a moment. You'll see at the bottom of the slide, I want to take a moment to call out this great resource we have for our King's family called the Institute for Christ and Culture. Oh my goodness. If you don't do anything else this week, go visit the site if you haven't already. It is a robust source of just tools and resources for you guys, for all of us as parents, but also for our kids, to give them answers, to help them with reasons for, hey, here's why you can believe. This is why you can follow Christ. There's actually evidence to believe, and there are rational thoughts and arguments and things that you can combat the worldviews and ideologies that might not honor God or honor you. Great source of tools, apps, all free for you. Please take advantage of that. That didn't exist for you, didn't exist for me when we were kids. We have it now as part of our King's family, so please take advantage of that. Also, boundaries. Those riverbanks that you and I put up, right? They're going to be tested. They're going to be pushed against just because they're there. You know, give your kid a curfew and watch what happens, right? Let the party start, right? I'm currently in negotiations. I think they've stalled with my 17-year-old daughter about phone time, right? Like, she should be here. She should be like a prosecuting attorney. She wants to litigate everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. Could you just be quiet? Can you just stop? I get it. You want your phone longer. You can't have it longer, right? Anybody else been there with technology? Yeah. Let's just pray. No, okay. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, right? But it wouldn't matter what it was. We could say, oh, you want it till midnight? Sure. And then it would be, you know what? My friends have it till, they got it all night. Can I just keep it with me? No. It doesn't matter what the boundary is. What I want you to know, it's not you. It's not you. It's them. It's part of growing is they're going to push on that boundary. So what we know is that there's three things and other things that are happening developmentally and just, of course, as their identity and just part of pushing back and learning what the limits are. Would you believe me if I told you it's counterintuitive, but our kids need us to hold the line. They need us. They are desperate for us to hold those riverbanks and hold those boundaries because you know what it says? It says, oh, I'm not running the show. You know how terrifying that is for a kid to think they're running the family? But when you show up and you say, no, this is the way it's going to be, that breeds security and a sense of stability for that kid. You got to hold the line. It's not you. It's definitely them. So it's interesting. The Gallup organization did a study just a couple years ago on families in America, and they discovered, believe it or not, I don't want to shock you, that most families have conflict. Right? I'm like, you spent money to find that out? You needed it. Like all the people doing the research, you live in families, you ought to know. We all have conflict, right? But some families don't do well. Some families, they have the conflict, and it leaves a mark. It leaves a mark. It leaves injury. It leaves an emotional mark. It divides. It disrupts. It separates the parents and the kids, and it destroys, it's destructive. But then some families, they manage conflict in a different way. They're going to have it, but they walk through it in a different way. They've got something different that keeps it from being destructive. I think about it like this. Conflict with our kids is inevitable, but destructive conflict is completely avoidable. I'll say that again. Conflict with our kids is inevitable. It's going to happen, but destructive conflict, the kind of conflict that divides and separates and undermines your relationship with your teen and with my kids, that is completely avoidable. And so looking at some research from a guy named Nick Stennett from University of Alabama, he looked at families, or what healthy families do, and he discovered some things about healthy families. Never perfect. Let me just say that. You know this is true, like perfection is perfection, right? It's not going to happen, but you can have a healthy family. I can have a healthy family that navigates the inevitable conflict in a way that isn't destructive. What Stennett found is that healthy families, they have this atmosphere. They do things that create safety, emotional safety and connection in the home. They're intentional about some behaviors that give them this kind of, there's a vibe in the house where the kids feel safe. Safe for what? Safe to push those boundaries and find that, oh, they don't yield. Mom and dad, they're like a rock. This is good. I need the rock. They're good, right? They're safe. It's safe for them to ask questions like, why do we do the things we do? Why do we value the things we value? Why do we vote the way we vote, right? All these big conversations, right? But it's safe for them. It's safe for them, for these kids in these homes, to express big emotions, to express all emotions, and they don't run their parents off. It's safe that way. But they're also big about connection. They feel like, hey, I'm part of a team. We're on the same side of whatever the issue is or challenge is. We don't attack each other in our family. We attack the problem together as a team. Does that make sense? Safety, connection. Safety and connection. Safety and connection. Healthy families that navigate the inevitable conflict that we're all going to face and that we're all kind of walking through. One of the common themes is that they are big on creating an atmosphere of safety and connection. And one of the ways that they do that is they're intentional about making deposits into each other, deposits of time and energy. I like this phrase, you can't cram for the most important things in life. How many of you have ever crammed for an exam in school? Yes, yeah, all of you have, don't lie. All right, yeah. Healthy conflict resolution with your kids will come from a healthy relationship with them. And that requires consistent deposits of time. I say this because over the years, I've met so many really good, smart, loving people. They love God, they love their families, and they're so busy. And one of the things that I've heard people say, and it makes sense to me as a strategy, I just don't know that the payoff is there, and it goes like this. This summer, we're going to Maui for like 2 weeks. And I think that'll be a good catch-up time. You know what? She just turned 16, and she's been wanting this car. So when we get that car for her, that's gonna be huge. It's gonna help. It's gonna help. And there's this idea, and I've had the same thoughts. You know, if I do this, if we have this special getaway, somehow it will compensate. Somehow it'll make up for what's been lacking. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna create this display of my love, my affection, and my attention. Somehow it's gonna help. I love the thought. It just doesn't work that way. You guys know this. The most important things in life, think about it, like your physical health, right? Hey, I don't run at all, but there's a marathon coming up. I'm just gonna show up. Let's see what happens, right? Be ready with CPR. Be ready with the paddles for me, right? You have to do things along the way to get that payoff. What do you do with your money, right? Daily, regular, deposits along the way, investments along the way. There's return over time. And that's the way it is with our relationships, with our marriages, and with our parenting. We can't cram for those most important relationships. One of the things that Stennett noticed is that the parents, the families that manage conflict well, they learn the nuance, the details, the uniqueness of their kids. Those of you with more than one child, they're different, right? Each kid is different, right? You know that? Yeah. Parents that they get really, really good by making these deposits of time and energy with their kids. They get really good at dialing in, at becoming like experts on their kids. When I was in grad school for counseling, I had a professor who would say, you want your parents to get PhDs in their kids. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Just the nuance of each of the kids. Personalities, right? You know your kids, if you have more than one kid, they've got different personalities. I'm an introvert. The kids that we have, that Kim and I have, 2 introverts. They're so great. They just don't talk. We sit there, and we've bonded. It's good. With 3 flaming extroverts. Oh, my goodness, right? Too much. But we know that. Are your kids more introverted or extroverted? Do they get charged up with people? Do they get charged up with silence and solitude? That helps you when it comes to conflict, because that's what we're talking about. If you have a kid who's an introvert, you know what? Maybe if they've been at school all day, maybe now's not the time when their batteries are really, really low from being around people, going to practice, going to the show, being in class all day. Maybe now's not the time to have that kind of charged conversation about that thing you've been thinking about. Maybe they need some time to recharge. Make sense? Right? And then I think about love languages. These are a thing. You know, we've known about the 5 love languages for decades and decades. Your kids have them. They have a number 1 and a number 2 love language. When they're in elementary school, they've got all 5. That's why they're so draining. They need everything, right? Words, time, touch, gifts, service, bless you. They need all that stuff. But then when they get into the teenage years, they start to hone in on a top language. And they have a close second, usually. It helps in moments of conflict to know, okay, what's my kid's number 1 language or number 2 language, right? If it's physical touch, it may be so counterintuitive in that moment of just, there's tension, it's a disagreement. They might just need you to put an arm around them, because that is just pouring into them, speaking that language of love to them. If it's time, it may mean, okay, we're having this tough conversation, and I'm just going to sit here with you. I'm not going to get up and go and do that thing, because I'm going to speak your language. Sometimes it's knowing your kids, the triggers, the hot buttons, the things that, like the no-fly zones, right, for your daughter, for your son. Don't mention this person, or don't mention that class, or don't mention this issue, because it will just really set them off. And sometimes we don't even know what the buttons are. I think of years ago, we used to live in Jupiter Farms, and I walked out in our living room one morning, and there was a big window in the front of our house, and I looked out and I saw our dog Casey, our black lab Casey, being weird, right? And so she's jumping straight up from the ground, jumping up and going, oh! And she'd land. Same thing again. Oh! Just jumping straight up. So I'm thinking, well, it's probably a snake. A lot of snakes out there. And just about then, my son Gabriel, who was 5 at the time, walks up, and he goes, Daddy, what's this? He goes, what's this button do? And it's the bark collar for Casey. And he just kept pressing the button. Oof! 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 And it was like dialed to 11, so poor Casey. If it would have been a cat, I wouldn't have cared, but it was our dog, so, sometimes if we're not careful, if we don't know our kid well enough, we're pushing buttons. Oof, ow, Mom, stop. Dad, stop mentioning that. That was too painful, right? Parents who manage conflict well, they know their kids, they know the nuance, they know the uniqueness of their kids. One of the ways that we do that is they normalize connection. We talked about safety and connection. Parents, families that seem to navigate conflict well, they get really, really good at making connection time. What they do? Do we stop now? Are we done? What happens? Okay, yeah, all right. So and we're done. Yeah, so they normalize connection. They find ways, they build it into the rhythm of their week to spend time with their son, their daughter, in these easy ways, meals together, shared activities, intentional conversations. I think of, just sometimes the conversations are, hey, how was your day? What was great about today? Sometimes just those meals together. One of the things that Nick Stinnett found is that the families that seem to weather the changes and navigate conflict, most nights of the week, believe it or not, they sat around a table somewhere in their home and just had dinner together. Just a great way of connecting. Shared activities, shared hobbies, doing things together. Chip Ingram, child psychologist, pastor, years ago said, these parents, they love to go and support their kids and their teams and all of that, and they sit in the stands, and there'd be more traction if they would be more intentional about the ride to the game and the ride from the game, investing in their kids, having those conversations. One of the things that we do in our house is we didn't invent this, it's been around forever, but is the high-low thing at dinner. Whoever's at dinner, hey, what was your high for the day? We always start with Kim. I want everybody to see, she's, I love my wife. I do. I want my kids to see we honor her. She's the most important. You kids are fine. You're all going to go away. She's staying, right? And so she always starts with her high, and if there's a low, she'll share that. And we go around. And if you come to our house for dinner tonight, we'll do it with you. You'll be the first to go. We always make the visitors go after Kim. Like, okay, no, you got to share your secret sin. That's our joke, yeah. Nobody plays. Yeah, and what it does, it lets the kids know that at some point in the day, if we're there at dinner, we're going to get a chance to talk about something that's personal. And nobody's going to laugh, hopefully, and there's going to be support, that connection, and that safety. My 17-year-old daughter, when we go around the table now, she rolls her eyes and, Dad, my low is sharing my day with you right now. Okay, thanks. You tagged me. I'm bleeding a little bit there, yeah. I wonder if we take a second, what do you guys do? Does anybody have, we talked about meals together, shared activities, intentional conversations. Who has something that you do? Yeah, go ahead.
We got it on Amazon, maybe $9, $10. It's a little box, and it probably has, 300 cards in it, very small little cards.
Yep.
And you pull one out, and
Yeah.
and then you just answer the question, everyone answers. And
Yeah.
4 or 5 different topics.
Oh.
But within each topic is like X amount of questions. So that seems to be.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
But you can get like different
Yeah.
age ranges as well. Like, obviously, there's adult ones, there's teen ones, and all different age ranges.
Right. Oh, that's so helpful. That's so cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I have 3 kids, 19, 12, and 6, so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Because they're all at different stages of
Yep.
their lives. But a few months ago, we actually just started doing like a family game night.
Oh, okay.
So we have like 30 board games.
Oh.
So we rotate every week. Somebody gets to pick a different game.
Yeah.
And it's something that we all enjoy. And even with the different ages, they are bonding.
Oh.
Having that good time together. And I was telling my husband that, if we're not intentional with that,
Yeah.
it won't happen. And it's hard, because especially now with, everybody's always on the go and, social media, people
Yeah.
get lost in their phones and lost in their,
Right.
their to-do list, and they kind of forget about the little things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. What time Friday night do we show up? Is that you got 30 games? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
We're relatively new to Kings.
Oh.
My kids say that lunch is their favorite period of the day. At dinner, we talk about everything that
Yeah.
ends up
Yeah.
the doorway into what was
Oh, yeah.
social, it's sport,
Yeah.
but what you
Mm.
watch and why it was so good at Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Starts
Oh, I love that. When I was in training for child therapy, one of the big things, the mantra was, play is the language of kids. And so if you can start something, and And I love the fact that you said it's a way in. You know, talking about lunch is a way in. Playing, it's a way in, right? Doing the things with something else with a kid is a way to connect. It always works. Somebody back there had, yeah.
I always like to start the morning and hugging kids, and when they go to bed, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm the face-to-face seat.
Yeah.
Bed and they wake up.
Yep. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I'm a boy mom, so, I'm kind of outnumbered in our household.
Yep.
But every week, we print off the NFL game picks.
Oh, come on.
Everybody's going to pick for the week.
Yeah.
And there's always a winner, but it really is a way for us to connect.
Yeah.
with ways.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds great. Yeah. Yes.
I have 2 high school boys and
Okay.
a middle school daughter, and so we look for times when we have like parallel motion,
Hmm.
being face-to-face conversations.
Yeah.
We're not going to get deep.
That's right.
Looking for the car ride, or
Yeah.
come with me to Publix,
Yep.
or let's take a golf cart ride, or let's
Oh.
or let's
Yep.
weed. Like this weekend, we were gardening all together.
Yeah.
Like we're together and
Yeah.
talking shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. That sounds so good. Anybody else before we kind of move on? Great stuff. I hope you're taking notes, and I'm absorbing all this. Okay, we got to do this. We need more games. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Good. Yes, ma'am. Oh. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's good. And what I love about that is what you're all describing is you're describing ways to create this sense of connection. Hey, we're part of something here, and it's safe. We can share. I didn't like lunch today, or whatever. Or, this is the game I want to play. Whatever it is, we're doing this thing together. Safety and connection. Gonna have conflict? The way we can kind of set the stage for safety and connection to kind of mitigate the fallout of the conflict with our teens is doing that kind of stuff, being very intentional, not trying to cram for our relationships, but making those deposits with those connection times, all of that. But I want to talk about conflict itself and what we do specifically in those moments where, in spite of all the good times and the connection, our kids start to push up against the boundaries, or we start to see some of those growing pains come out in our home. And I want to talk about the fuel behind the conflict, which I call anger. Everybody say anger. Oh, that's so sweet and so nice. Anger, yeah. When you go home, it's different, right? Yeah, yeah. I think about it, it's like the fuel, it's like the spark. Years ago, it was the first week we lived in that place with our dog, Casey, in the farms. And we were going to have a fire pit thing out in the backyard, and I asked my oldest son, Caleb, hey, because I'm a city guy, can you get the lighter fluid and put that around? I already put the brush and stuff in the fire pit. Well, he couldn't find the lighter fluid, but he did find the can of gas in the shed. And so he put gasoline around the side of this, around the perimeter of this little pile of brush, and I went to light it, not knowing that. My eyebrows have just grown back. It's been a decade. Woof, big flash, big explosion, and sometimes that can happen in our homes, right? You don't know what you're about to ignite with that word, with that statement. When you see that your daughter walk in the room, when you see your son walk in the room, you don't know necessarily what is about to happen. And that's anger. So I want to talk a little bit about what anger actually is. I think about it like this. Anger is a secondary emotion. It's not primary. So anytime you're angry, you're always something else. Anytime I'm angry, I'm always something else. It's not a primary emotion, but it's easy to grab onto and focus on. But it's not the only thing going on. I think about anger, it's like that light on the dashboard of your car that says check engine soon. When the light goes on, you don't take it to the dealership and say, hey, fix the light. I think something's wrong with this light. It says check engine soon, but I think the light's broken. No. You take it there and you say, hey, the light is on. I think something's going on under the hood. They hook up the computer because something is going on at a deeper level. That's what anger does for us. It is the light on the dash that says, hey, something's going on. You got to check this out. It's under the hood. Well, what is going on? What's the something else? Sometimes it's pain from the past. Your kid shows up and there's the light's flashing. It's all they see. Anger. But it's really, they're really hurt by something. And it's from the past. The past could have been something brought up from, when they were 5 or 5 minutes ago, but it was then, not now. But the anger is just more easy to access, to access is what I should say. And so that's what they roll with, and that's what you get. But really, it's pointing to, they're just hurt. There's just something going on that hurt them. Maybe something you said or didn't say, or didn't do, a friend at class, whatever. But it's pain. Anytime you're angry, anytime your kid is angry, there's something else. Sometimes it's pain from the past. Sometimes it's frustration with the present. Something like right now is not going the way they hoped it would go, that the way they thought it could go. They didn't make the team. Their grades aren't happening the way they want them to be. They're trying to get in that friend group, and it's not working out. And they're frustrated. But all they see is that light on the dash, that anger. It's just easy to kind of focus on that. So that's what they show up in the kitchen with, right? That's what they show up at bedtime with. That anger, that edgy, harsh edge of anger. But they're just frustrated. Sometimes it's not pain from the past or frustration with the here and now. Sometimes it's worry about the future. Researchers tell us that now in 2024, our teens are more anxious than ever before. Depression, anxiety, soaring among our teenagers, our sons and our daughters. The pressure of living up to the images they see on social media, right? They see all their kids, their friends' highlight reels, trying to look a certain way, trying to act a certain way, the pressure to conform, the pressure to excel, and they worry, can I make it? Can I be that good? Can I look like that? Can I excel like that? When I graduate, where should I go to school? What should I major in? All that kind of stuff. Worry. But they don't show up saying, hey, I'm really concerned about this, mother. You just get the wah! Because it's too much, and that light is easy to follow, that light of anger. But anytime your kid is angry, anytime my kid is angry, there's always something else. The something else is usually pain or frustration or anxiety. Sometimes, this is so helpful, sometimes it's all three, right? It's just this great, cocktail of just a lot of stuff. But here's why I want you to know this. Anger, if your kid shows up and they're angry, man, that anger has an edge. It's harsh. And we know from just the studies that when somebody shows up and they start a conversation and it's kind of leaning into that light, check engine, anger, the outcome is about 80% of the time the outcome is going to be negative. Because when your kid shows up with that anger, you're wired. God has made you. God has made me to have this instinctual protect myself, which means I can't listen. I just want to tell you why you're wrong, while you're talking. I'm just thinking about my response, right? Anybody ever done that? Right? As soon as you're quiet, I've got my point to show you why you're wrong and all that good stuff. The last thing we want to do is lean in and connect when they show up with anger. By the way, it's the same when we show up with anger with our kids. We're short-circuiting, we're sabotaging the ability, the moment to connect and create that safety. Anytime you're angry, you're always something else. Sometimes it's pain, frustration, anxiety. Sometimes it's all three. This is what I would say. When your kid is angry, don't react to the anger. Respond to what you know has to be going on underneath, right? And when you're angry, don't lead with the anger, right? Lead with that softer emotion that's driving it. That's going to help create that safety when they realize mom and dad aren't reactive. They're going to respond in a certain way. Help your kid get below the surface. Hey, it seems like you're really angry. I wonder what else you might be. Are you hurt about that thing that happened? Are you worried about, the grades are about to come out? What's going on? You want to take a second and figure that out? Right? Anytime you're angry, you're always something else. Don't lead the conversation with anger. I tell clients all the time, here's what I want you to do. Police yourself. Look in the mirror, parents, and be ruthless. And do not allow yourself to have that conversation with your kid if all you have is anger. If that's all you got, you're not ready to have the conversation. You've got to figure out, with God, as people of faith, ask God, ask the Lord. Heavenly Father, help me understand. I'm so angry right now. What's driving that? What's going on? Help me get in touch with what's fueling that anger. When you have those emotions, lead with those because they're all soft. They're all soft. Anger is harsh, creates that defensiveness, that fight or flight, which plays right into your kid's amygdala, their brain. Remember we said it's half-baked, right? But to be able to show up and lead with that softer emotion, those emotions connect. I guarantee, if your kid comes at you with anger, you're gonna react. If your kid comes at you saying, "Hey, I'm just hurting about this. I'm frustrated about this. I'm anxious about this. I don't know how this is going to play out," you're going to lean in. You're going to engage. And that's the whole point. All right, so how do we navigate? We create this atmosphere in the home of safety and connection. We allow for big emotions. We allow and are intentional about time with our kids. We get to know the uniqueness and the nuances, personalities, and how they're wired up and all of that. We get really, really adept at identifying anger and then knowing, okay, what's going on underneath that, and responding to that and leading with that. And then we lead healthy conflict conversations. First, we listen. Rick Warren years ago said that if you listen to somebody for 10 minutes, they will think you're the smartest person in the world. So we just don't listen, right? We got our own stuff going on. When mom or dad sits with a kid and gives them all of these things, I just hit you with a shotgun there, all that stuff. When they postpone direction and push for understanding, when they refuse to interrupt, when they give full attention, eye contact, when they put their devices down, amazing things happen. Your stock shoots through the roof with your kid. Because most of their experience is that people, especially big people, grown people, don't do that with them. There was a study done in Seattle. It's been a few decades now. One of the strange things the researchers found is that in healthy families, when one person in the family they called it a bid for connection, made that bid for a connection, in healthy families, the other people, the other partner, the other parent, whoever, they would actually turn and face the person who is saying, "Hey, good morning, I was thinking about this for lunch," or "Can we do this after school," whatever. They would just literally turn and face the person during that bid for connection. And the families that didn't really do well, that didn't navigate the future well, the person could come in and say whatever they wanted to say. "Hey, I was thinking about this for lunch," and the person they were trying to connect with would just keep doing what they're doing. Yeah. Something so pragmatic and so simple as just turning toward your kid and just listening in the moment. If it's a spur of the moment, you're in the hall and, "Mom, I just got to tell you," or in the kitchen, "Dad, this is bothering me," for me to stop and turn to them and just really listen. And that top statement, that's what I really, really push. It's not just the physical body language and facing them and looking to them, but our knee-jerk is to respond, and I would ask you to hold off and just postpone that direction, postpone that persuasion would be another word, and just push for understanding. We listen and we empathize. You know what empathy is, right? Sympathy is, hey, you fell into a hole. That stinks to be you. You know? Empathy is, oh, I know what that's like. I know what it's like. You know what? I was in 9th grade once. Oh, I know what you're talking about, right? To really practice curiosity. You know, I know you're angry right now. Can you tell me what else you might be feeling? You know, remember what it was like for you. Remember what it was like for you. That's what it's like for her, for your daughter. That's what it's like for your son. It's a crazy, very difficult time. You survived. They're still going through it. They're still questioning, am I going to make it out of this? Right? For you and I to lean in that irreplaceable role as mom or dad and go, oh, I get it. I remember that. You know, do you remember having your first broken heart? Oh my goodness, yeah. It was Barbara Gazda, and I just listened. It was 9th grade, and I just listened to Chicago 17 over and over and over again. Not helpful, not healthy. Yeah. You remember that kind of stuff. That's a great time to dig deep and go, oh, I know. What can I do, right? You know, don't listen to any sad songs. It's not going to help you, right? We listen, we empathize. I'm convinced that empathy is the secret sauce of connection. You can get rid of everything else, but if your kid feels like you get them in that moment, that you are with them in that moment, man, that's a connection. That's an unbreakable connection. That's huge. We listen, we empathize, and then we acknowledge and affirm. Hey, I can see how this makes sense. You're telling me what's happening. You're telling me what happened. I get it. I understand why you think that. You know, if that happened to me, you know, if when I was a kid, you know, my dad, you know, grandpa, he was saying that stuff to me, or I heard it that way, I might think the same thing. What I would tell you, special note, all you're saying is, I get how you've kind of come to this conclusion, but you don't have to agree with them. This is not about agreeing with your kid. This is letting them know, oh, mom doesn't think I'm crazy. Dad doesn't think I'm crazy when I describe why I'm so upset right now. Why can't I have my phone when I want my phone at all times? Why can't I have the newest phone? Whatever it is, right? You get, wow, yeah, it'd be nice. I wish I had the newest phone, right? You know, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't mean that you agree. You're just basically saying, I've heard you. I get it. Yeah, I'm kind of connecting the dots with you. Yeah, you know, if I had a teacher like that who maybe was upset with me, and I might feel the same way. But then we direct and decide. Ultimately, whatever happens in that conversation, whether it's a pre-planned set aside, hey, we need to talk about this, or it's in the hall and they just catch you and right. We lean in, we listen, we help them understand that, hey, if you're angry right now, that's okay, that's great, it's telling you something. You know, what else is going on? Right? Are you hurt? Are you frustrated? All that stuff, are you anxious? But ultimately, whatever the issue is, the decision is still yours as mom, as dad. You are the parent. You are the parent. I would just say this, in my field, there are a lot of voices, and there are a lot of podcasts, and there are a lot of, maybe not a lot of TED Talks, but there's a lot of stuff about kind of being more, less of an authority in your kid's life. And again, I would just reiterate, man, it sounds so nice, it just doesn't work. You have to hold the line. At the end of the day, you get to be the one to say, hey, I know this might be tough for you, but this is we're gonna do this. This is what we're gonna do. And that breeds and creates security in your daughter and your son. They know, okay, somebody who loves me more than anybody else in the world, right? They're looking out for me, and maybe I'm not in control of everything. And that is healthy, and that is good. There's my little statement. I can understand how this is difficult for you, but I'm going to do my best to help you through it. Said no parent ever. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. You get to decide. We can't abdicate our role as the loving authority in our kids' lives. Pro tip, if during all of that, whether it's the spontaneous in the kitchen, bah, or the planned conversation, let's talk about this thing that's been going on, if it comes out that you have been wrong, that you have wronged your child, that you've made a bad decision that has affected them, that has offended them, what an amazing opportunity to model vulnerability and humility and apologize. And apologize. Oh my goodness. What that can do for that relationship. Talk about safety and connection. When mom acknowledges, I blew it. The other day I lost my temper. I blew it. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do my best to not do that again, right? Man, the traction is amazing. It's amazing. When we lead our kids through conflict, we cultivate safety and connection. I like rhymes. I like things that I can remember, so I wrote it this way. Safety and connection equals conflict protection. When we create safety and connection, we get conflict protection. It no longer can be destructive. It can no longer blow up and hurt us in different ways. We get to manage it well. And I would just leave you with this. I would remind you that we have a God who began something. He started something. Of course, this verse, I'm sure that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. He's talking about changing us and transforming us. But he's also talking about all the good things that God begins in our lives. Guess what? One of the good things, he gave you those kids. Right? They don't even know it, right? He put these kids in Christian families with wise and loving, imperfect, but trying, to be healthy parents. God did that. He started that. Guess what? He made you and I parents. He started that good work, and we are not alone in the work. He is with us. He is empowering us. He's giving us strength and wisdom. Man, I don't think I prayed as much until we had that first kid. Now I was praying all the time. I don't know what to do, Lord. When do we feed it? I don't know. We are not alone in this journey of parenting. We can lead our kids into healthy conflict. So let's close in prayer if we can. Heavenly Father, I thank you that you are the perfect parent. I thank you that you know what it's like to love us, to lead us, and to show up. Father, I pray for my fellow parents here this morning and myself. God, give us wisdom, give us strength, give us encouragement, give us, as we deal with the rough and tumble challenges of preteen and teenage years in our home, help us to be stable, to be rocks, to be loving, to be kind, to not react to the anger we see or the anger we feel. But Father, to lead loving, healthy conversations that would honor you and honor our kids. And we pray all this in Christ's name. Amen. All right, and I'll put this up there. That's my direct line, and that's my email. I love to talk with parents and all that. And it won't cost you anything. I love to support and serve and just whatever I can do. All right, thanks.
Can we thank Chris for sharing with us this morning and being with us? Thank you so much. We have a couple minutes, so if you have a question, we can field a couple of questions for Chris. I know we can hear each other in here, but I'll pass the mic around just for the recording purposes. But any questions that we could take just for the next couple of minutes before we, again, if you have to go, you can feel free to step out, but any questions, more than welcome to ask them now. You did such a good job of covering all the material. It's like, we got it all. I love actually the handout too. That's really helpful. Hopefully that's a good resource for you. I was taking notes for all of my unborn children, so that was great. We're going to be resourced. Oh, question in the back, yes.
One thing I've noticed with my son who's in 5th grade is that when he is frustrated or angry, he tends to shut down and not talk. And I always struggle with how do I draw him out of that? Because he's so different than my older daughter who will just kind of tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I wonder, what is he into? What does he like to do for fun?
He is, his biggest thing is like computer tech stuff.
Yeah.
And he and my husband bond over that a lot, but I am lost with that.
Yeah. Well, and again, it goes back to, the language of children is play. it's that parallel stuff we were talking about. It's doing stuff together. They begin to open up. So I wonder if there's a possibility of you just kind of sitting next to him, playing a game or doing something on the computer and letting that kind of surface as you go, you know. So yeah, your day was pretty good, huh? And or, yeah, Mom, whatever, or, you know, this happened, whatever it is. The other thing that can be helpful is to, you know, just draw something, you know, just create something that can depict what's happening inside. I've done this with fifth graders before. You might be familiar with like the motor plate. I think that's what we used to call it. But it's, you know, it's the paper plate, and you draw these different colors. You know, you draw red, yellow, green, and you put this little needle there. You say, hey, where are you? You know, red is like, this is a hard moment right now. You know, edgy emotions, big emotions. Yellow is kind of okay. Green is I am all good, right? Hey, where are you? You know, oh, you're in red. Oh, I know what that's like. What do you usually do to kind of move that needle up? Is there anything we can do? You want to get on and play that new game with Dad, right? That's all Dad does. He just plays that game all the time. I don't know your husband. So, but does that make sense? Like, find some other ways to elicit what's going on.
I guess it's more also like in the heat of the moment, like he's frustrated about having to do his homework, and he just gets like irrationally angry sometimes, and just trying to figure out how do we de-escalate so we can focus again.
Yeah, it's I think part of the way forward is giving him some tools to, hey, this is what I'm feeling right now. These are some things I can do to bring myself down to a good place, whether it's breathing, whether it's, you know, something else that can be helpful. What do you think about that? Could that be something that?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to know as a parent too sometimes, where it's like, all right, you just need to listen. I know you want to go out and play.
Why? Because I said so. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, especially in the moment. Yeah, it can be hard. So you want to find ways before one of those things, outside of one of those events where he's melting down, to talk about, hey, here's some things that, you know, can be helpful. Put those in his toolbox and then remind him. Oh, remember we talked about doing that thing with the hand where, you know, you breathe in, then you breathe out, you breathe in. You know, there are a myriad of different things, and I can send you some stuff. So yeah, yes, ma'am. You got something helpful to, yeah.
Yes, a comment to that. And so one thing in our family that we use is, or we say, is that every emotion is okay, but just different kids, each of my kids handles it a little bit differently. So if you need, like if you need to go to your room and settle down, that's okay. One kid just needs to go in, and that's okay. The other one needs to verbalize right away. As long as it's respectful, you're allowed to have that space. And so sometimes the turnaround we want is so quick, right? Like I see you're angry, now we need to process it, but that's backfired on me so many times that I had to give them what they need.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, good question. Thanks for sharing that. You know, what I love about times like this is I hope that you all realize there's no comparison. Well, it's hard for all of us. This is really difficult. You don't love anybody more than you love your kids, and then it's really, really challenging. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for
We'll do
being
one more
open.
question in the back here, and then feel free, after this question, you can connect with Chris and ask him a question. If you didn't want to ask with everybody, feel free to go up and ask him a question. So we'll close with this one.
Hi, thank you for today. I learned a lot. And I have one question. I have a lot of kids, so I have 4.
Define a lot. What is a lot? I got 5. I feel like I'm.
Oh,
you know,
never
I'm
mind.
okay.
I have less than you. So one of my kids is very, very OCD. So everything has to be in particular way.
Yes.
And so he get angry and frustrated for everything. Like from my perspective, it's like everything he get frustrated.
Yeah.
Why things are not this way? Why like so I'm like he doesn't hurt people. He will just be angry because I told him you cannot like be hurting yourself or hurting other people or throwing tantrum when you're angry. But then he will be like you can see he's shaking and trying to hold it in. And I'm like, I don't know what to do to make him take it easy. Because in life, there are so many things not going your way. So how do I help this type of kid to relax and chill out, to not get angry?
How old is he?
He is 5th grade.
Fifth grade, yeah,
Yeah.
something about those fifth graders. What's in the water
It's a
for the
fifth
fifth
grade
grade
thing.
class? I don't know. Yeah, well, one thing I would say, when you say OCD, that's whether it's an anxiety, right? It's if things aren't. There's always a theme, but if it's order and ritual and all that, if things aren't a certain way, that's the anxiety kicks in, and there's anger and frustration and fear. One of the things that can be helpful is to lovingly help your son sit with that, sit with the things. Hey, the Legos aren't put away, or they're not where you want them to be, or something's not quite right. To let him sit in that anxiety with him, so you won't be here anymore. You'll be at home all the time doing that with him. But so he learns. You can't talk somebody out of anxiety. I wish you could. Their brain has to teach them, I'm not going to die. Things can be in disarray, or whatever the theme is, right, for your son, and the world will still go on. Like you said, things don't go your way all the time in real life. For a kid with a lot of anxiety, especially if it's around OCD and rituals or order or things like that, it's very, very difficult to function if things aren't a certain way. And the only way to learn that you can still function is by letting those things just not be the way he wants them to be for a little bit. And you sit there and you help him breathe and help him kind of process, and his brain rewires and teaches him, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah, a good question, yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Chris, for sharing with us this morning. And yeah, appreciate it. Feel free to stick around for a few minutes if you'd like to ask them a question, and we have plenty of refreshments and snacks in the back. So thanks again for being here this morning.